Welcome into Boxing Scene Today. Well, Stephen Breadman Edwards, we know him well, a great boxing mind. He was answering mailbag questions on Boxing Scene. Go to their website, leave a comment. They throw that into the mailbag. They answer it on their side, and we answer it on ours. When it comes to Breadman, we know what a great boxing mind he is. Well, guess what? I got a couple of great boxing minds with me right now. Jimmy Smith in studio alongside the champ, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, joining us via Zoom. Well, he got sent some great questions. We're going to answer them right here. First one, of course, about Gervonta Davis taking on Jake Paul. Do you think Gervonta Davis will take the Jake Paul fight seriously? I'm guessing he doesn't train hard, won't be in peak physical shape. I also think this fight will be a real stinker to watch. I see Paul using his height and reach, and Davis really trying hard to not get close enough to land anything significant. It's about effort. Chris, you and I were talking off camera yesterday. We're talking about fighters who, once the check clears, take that big shot and go, you know what? I think I'm done here. Luke Rockhold, bare knuckle, we were talking about this idea that you think Gervonta Davis is coming in with that kind of mentality. The check's already clearing.
The writing on the wall says yes, but I also think that there's some pride there. He doesn't want to lose to a guy like Jake Paul or even have a bad showing. I think that in terms of his training, I'm not sure, and I can't really guess. In recent years, he's shown himself to be dedicated and stayed in shape between fights in most recent years. Prior to that, not so much. You would see him balloon up in between fights. That hasn't been the case the last couple of years. You've seen him train year round. You've seen him come into camp in very good condition. Some of those press conferences, he didn't look that conditioned, Gervonta. So you do see him peeling back in terms of some of that discipline. But training camp happens. If he's locked in and he's looking to make a show and try and knock this guy out, I wouldn't be surprised either. Does he have the gas? Yeah. Even though he's dealing with a bigger guy, it's still, he's been 10, 12 rounds in real fights. Jake hasn't. Jake has shown that he's got tired out in fights. But if this fight, it's just so many questions. Like, is this fight real? Is this really a real fight? It can't really get sanctioned anywhere because of the size difference. So it has to be an exhibition. And there's a lot of money involved. I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't know. That comes down to, Tank Davis as a man inside of you. Are you just going to show up and take your check? Or are you going to go out there and whip this man's ass? Because that's what we do. I can't answer that for them.
When you look at the mentality, Paul, you've been critical of the way Gervonta Davis has A, picked opponents, and B, against Lamont Roach. It looks like when Lamont Roach stood his ground and was boxing well, Tank shut down a bit. The mentality might not be there. Is that what you think going into this fight, Paulie?
I really don't know what to think. It's an exhibition, so anything's possible. You can even stage it if you want. I know people like to blame Jake for staging some of his other fights, but I personally didn't think he was staging those fights. I just think he was, stacking the deck against or by picking certain opponents who he would have advantages over. And I know that's not setting things up. That's just called stacking the deck, right? So in this situation, with it being an exhibition, and you don't know what kind of gloves they're going to be wearing, what size gloves. You don't know. They could literally, behind the scenes, just get together and say, like, hey, you do this and I'll do that. There's nothing separating it from, say, a WWE style scripted event. Not that I'm not saying
if they want to hire me to choreograph the fight, I do.
He's
that.
very good at that.
I do that now.
Excellent.
I'm right off that gig with Road 84, right?
That's right.
I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it's not illegal to do that. And if people think Jake was setting up his other fights, which again I didn't think so, then I'm sure people might jump to this one. There's more of a chance of this happening, Plus,
because it's an exhibition and there's no betting lines. Like that's the thing. It's a super legal with there's betting lines.
It's illegal to rig a fight,
which we're all seeing now in other sports. For once, boxing is not the one on the chopping block. But yeah, that's a good point because it is an exhibition. Huh.
Yeah.
But the idea that an active fighter who was a world champion ends up looking bad, to your point, Paulie, will look worse than an ancient Mike Tyson looking bad. Do you get what I'm saying, Paul? That the suspicion would be greater. Is that your thought?
I didn't think, considering Mike's age, he looked bad because he was, you got to consider Mike's age, The only people that looked bad were the idiots that thought he was going to win that fight. But as far as this is concerned, there is a better chance of Gervonta looking bad because he's got more to lose here. But Mike, there wasn't a lot of expectation. He's 60 years old, with the exception of the Tuturuts generation who still thought it was Mike Tyson from 1988, which of course was never going to happen. But with this generation, with this fight, Gervonta is in his prime age,
Yep.
so
He's a current world champion too.
The current
He's
world
currently a
champion.
world
Yeah.
champion.
the expectation is more of a responsibility. It's because it's sort of more expected. This is actually expected. But again, I'm not sure. I don't, wasn't really crazy about the lack of character he showed in the Lamont Roach fight. I think if you're going to train hard for this fight, you do it just to make sure you hold your brand and don't look bad in the fight because this fight, whether you do good or not in the fight, I'm not gonna say win or lose because again, there's no winner or loser, but whether you do good or not in the fight, it's going to have an effect on your public image, right? You don't want to go out there looking bad or with just a bad, sloppy looking fight. The person asking the question is a bit novice himself. I don't know how much boxing he really watches for him to say that Jake's going to sit on the outside and use his reach. I mean, Jake sitting on the outside using his reach is not good enough boxer against this level of boxer. He'd sit on the outside, use his reach if this level of boxer doesn't let him sit on the outside and use his reach. But then again, Gervonta's going to be almost 100 pounds smaller. If maybe a little stretch, maybe 60 pounds smaller conservatively. So I mean, even the clinches and whatnot could get real awkward, get real weird. And it just, I just don't want it to be fall into a whole full blown comedy act. Where Jake in the clinches is kind of tossing Gervonta around or pushing him to the ground or something like that and making him look like a fool. Because then, like I said, you make yourself look like a fool and you make boxing look like a fool.
Yeah, that's certainly a risk that none of us want to see that on TV. So another question, once again, these were for Breadman. Whether it's reading your mailbag or watching YouTube breakdowns, your takes always feel fair and grounded. Still, I'm curious, has there ever been a time when you watched back one of your videos or read one of your own takes and thought, maybe I was a little biased there. Maybe I was on one side. I know how passionate Philly folks are, and it's only natural to want your hometown team or fighter to win. I thought that was a great question for you guys. We're always giving hot takes out here. We're very passionate about our opinions. Have you ever here, or you have a podcast of your own? Have you ever looked back, Chris, and gone, yeah, I was cheerleading a little bit there. I was for my guy.
If I'm going to be really honest, yeah, a lot. It just happens. Listen, we get fired up. We're excited. A lot of times we're giving immediate reactions as well. So, yeah, if you get some hot takes, it is what it is. I mean, but listen, the news minute's really a minute these days. So, you say something crazy, you kind of look back like, well, I was a little bit off there. I was a little,
I salted him a little. I
might have insulted a little bit there, but, it happens. Lately, though, I'm trying to preface things. Like we were talking about Joseph Parker today. I was like,
right.
Guys, let me just be honest. I really like Joseph Parker. I'm probably going to come out sounding biased because I really like the guy, and it just then just speak your truth from there. But listen, again, this is all subjective. These are opinions. Yes, we're experts. Yes, we're analyzing. Yes, certain things, but yeah, we're also humans. We're also human beings, and like I said, we react certain things on the moment. You're gonna get hot, you're gonna get heated, you're gonna say some things, but I think at the end of the day, if you look at any of us, all of us, Paulie, you have hot takes. You've got a lot hotter takes than I do, but at the end of the day, if you really look at the standard of everything that you put out there, it's pretty damn good.
Excuse you, Paulie has never ever overreacted on our air ever. Paulie, time to defend yourself. You've always been neutral, man.
I'm trying to
Never.
think if I'm actually biased or if I just call it the way it is. I just call it the way it is, dude. I don't know. I mean, do I fall into sort of a expectation of a fighter to wind up in my criticism booth, so to speak? Yeah, I mean, I expect Canelo to fight cab drivers. I expect Gervonta Davis to fight cab drivers. So when they do, I'm already halfway there to criticizing them because that's what I already expected them. Yeah, well, it would be nice if they would surprise me and do something different, but they don't. Even the Crawford fight, that was a calculated risk. He wasn't going to go Benavidez or nothing like that. He was fighting Crawford because he thought, okay, if I'm going to take a chance as the pound for pound greatest fighter in the world, but he's three weight classes smaller than me, I can take this calculated risk, and it's a little bit of a stacked deck. And obviously it didn't work for him, but it's not really the risk I was looking for him to take. That's not what the fight I was really looking to watch. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think I over I overdo it on anybody. Honestly, I mean, I think I call it like it is. I think
Yeah, but it
fans.
goes with both ways, Paul. Like, it's not just saying negative stuff; it's also saying positive stuff. Because like, yeah, I like this guy, so
Yeah,
I'm a little more positive with him than maybe I if I was being
I'm
if he was
kind of a
somebody
negative
else.
person in general, though, right? I'm like, I don't know
No,
I don't know
Paulie.
if I go overly positive on anyone. Sometimes I may be criticized to go overly negative on somebody, but I don't know if I can go
I'm
overly
trying. Who was it
positive.
the other day you were overly positive on? I was like, no way. And they lost too.
I don't.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh,
It'll come to me. It'll
I don't
come to
even
me.
know what you're talking about because I don't think I've ever heard
but I'll
Paulie
tell
be
you,
positive.
but I'll tell you what, it's funny because I get criticized by fan bases and praised by fan bases for the same thing. It's funny because I look at it like this. I'm always the guy that like, oh, Paulie, boxing needs Paulie. Just says it how it is, and we need that. We need that. And they love him. But the same exact people, when I'm brutally honest about somebody they like, all of a sudden their tune flips. You know what I mean? So people like the brutally honest guy until Paulie's brutally honest about somebody they like. Then all of a sudden they don't like Paulie anymore. So I mean, a lot of these arguments are emotionally based.
Well, that's where
I
there's inherent bias in everyone, people who are
Yeah,
listening, people who are
yeah.
watching. It's a fan
But
thing. This is all
yeah,
subjective.
I sort of put somebody in a situation, and then I'll hope that they prove me wrong. And typically when I put them in a situation, like I feel like Shakur Stevenson may be the best fighter around the lower weight classes, but I feel like he's avoided. So I never get a chance to see if I'm right about that. I feel like I am, but the fact that he's so avoided also makes me double down on the fact that he's so good. I feel like, again, guys like Gervonta Davis and Canelo Alvarez are a bit overrated, but they're very popular. So, you kind of wash that away, but they never actually fight the guys who I wanted to see them fight, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm more brutally honest than anything else, but yeah, people might think otherwise.
That you are brutally honest. That is true. And this is a good question. This is our final one that I think is very interesting. This has occurred to me while I've been calling fights. The question was, I've got a question about the word talent. When people say a fighter is more talented, what does that actually mean in your eyes? Are they referring to physical gifts like speed, reflexes, and power? Or does it also include things like natural instincts, rhythm, timing, fight IQ? Some guys seem gifted physically, but limited mentally. Others look flashy, but seem to have every intangible working in their favor. How do you define talent in a boxer? Because it is a term, Chris, we throw around a lot when we're doing, oh, this guy's super talented, this guy's super talented. And a lot of fighters tell us, no, I work really hard to be as good as I am. When you say talent, Chris, what do you mean?
When I say talent, I mean raw physical gifts. I mean what was given to you by the man upstairs. And some guys are just super fast. It doesn't matter. They're just fast. Some guys just hit hard. It just doesn't matter. They have that no matter what. The day one when they walked in the gym, you have those tools. That's talent. And I've seen this throughout my entire athletic career, whether I was wrestling or in kickboxing or boxing in gyms with guys, and or even when I've worked as a nutritionist with football players and basketball players, and you see guys that are just the raw gifts that they have. They have them no matter what. They can't leave them at home, kind of thing. You came to the game with it, or So, guy walks into a gym and he's got good reactions. He's got good hand speed. He's got good power. He's got a natural rhythm to him. Those are all, to me, raw talent. That's all raw talent. That's not something that you bring to me. So when I talk about talented guys, like when I was talking about Ryan Garcia,
Yep.
Ryan Garcia is a talented guy. The hand speed and the power is real. It's there, but he may lack in terms of his boxing IQ, the kind of things he chooses to do during a fight, and is also his discipline leading up to the fight. So that has nothing to do with talent in my eyes. And from what I've seen in my career and my lifetime career in sports, oftentimes the more talented guys are the lazier guys in the gym. The guys who could just show up and roll over and be awesome tend to show up, roll over, and be awesome, and they don't do the extra work. So that's when I talk about talent. I'm talking about raw gifts that literally you got from upstairs.
Paulie, what's your thought on it? As I said, it's a term we throw on a lot on commentary. Fighter's really talented. What does it mean to you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of piggyback on the champ's take on it. Natural gifts are reflexes, speed, power, um, just reading, being able to read the game faster than somebody else. Being able to read the situation inside the ring faster than somebody else. I think that's also a gift. The IQ aspect of it. You can have great teachers, but some people grasp it better than others. I think to a degree, everybody who reaches a world-class level has a certain amount of talent. You have to have a base. It's
Yeah.
it's your base that you're working with prior to being taught everything. That's your talent, and then it sort of shows itself in the ring.
What
as you experience and you learn on top of it. I think talent can be wasted in a lot of ways. I think talent can be wasted both in the fact that it doesn't always work hard, and I think talent can be wasted in the fact that in the wrong trainer's hands, talent can be messed up instead of actually shined up and brought to its best potential. So there's I think there's different ways to waste talent, and they're actually opposite ends of the spectrum. But in my experience, from what I notice, the guys that get a little bit lazy with the talent are the punchers, because they can they can sometimes, not all punchers, but what I'm saying is the guys I've seen that sometimes get a little bit lazy because they can bail themselves out with a big shot, and sometimes they start to half-ass it a little bit. Think about Mike Tyson once he lost his motivation, right? There was stories in the gym where he would barely train, and then he come in and he was still getting knockouts. I'm talking about like the fight with Clifford Etienne, for example. I remember
yeah.
told that he barely showed up to the gym for that fight, and then goes in first round, hits Clay Etienne on the chin and knocks him out, or there was, if it starts to happen too much, these I think big power guys, they sometimes can get a little bit lazy, and I guess that's natural. I wouldn't know what it feels like because I don't hit like that, but yeah, I mean, you had Mike Tyson won a lot of fights on intimidation. Maybe sometimes you start to say, hey, you know what? I don't have to train so hard like it's life and death because I can scare this guy out of his shoes. But of course, the night comes up where that catches up to you, no matter how much of that kind of talent you have, the power talent. But either way, yeah, it's subjective. Talent is subjective, but it's I think a lot of pure talent is pretty easy to see for anybody.
I want to leave you fans with one thing, which is the idea that if you run 10 miles every single day and you're disciplined and you run 10 miles and you have your fight and you knock your opponent out in the first round, what your body says is, could you have run 5? Your body says, I put in all this effort and all this work. And I knocked this guy in the first round. Then I knocked the next guy in the first round. Then I knocked the next guy. And your body starts going, did I really need to spar? Your body almost, Chris, like your brain goes, could I have run 7? Could I have run 5 miles? You start to look for that line that gives you the same results with less effort.
The guys who aren't special.
Exactly.
The guys who aren't special think like that. Me, for example, and I've had this kind of situation from like wrestling and even kickboxing too. Like if I was expecting a tough fight and it ended early or easy, I'd be like the kind of guy be like, I'm gonna run home. That was the mentality. I brought that from high school wrestling though. That's that idea. It's like I still got to put the work in. Or like if I had an easy fight, I'm in the gym on Monday. The guys who are special.
Therefore, I can do more.
Yes. I can. And listen, I got that first round knockout because of those 10 round, that 10-mile run that I did. It wasn't that I did too much because the intended result happened because of what the work I put in.
A broadcast partner. Yeah, go ahead, Paulie.
That's supposed to be the way everybody thinks, but sometimes I think, in some people's minds, it sort of starts to creep up on them. I think of a fight that I watched when I was younger, and it was a tragic fight. It was a Joe McClellan and Nigel Benn.
Yes.
And McClellan was going into that fight with about, I think, 5 or 6 consecutive first-round knockouts, and not just first-round knockouts. First-round knockouts against world-class fighters. I think 2 of those knockouts have been with Julian Jackson.
Yep.
And he was on a tear, and he certainly wasn't lazy because the fight wound up going like 11 rounds before he got stopped. But
he almost knocked him out. He almost knocked him out in the first round too. He almost knocked him
out in the first round as well. But that's something mentally he was almost lazy because once Ben got out of the first round and started to resist and fight back, McClellan, who had been a good boxer, remember, this is a guy that beat Roy Jones in the National Golden Gloves in the amateurs. McClellan had been a good boxer, looked almost out of his element because he'd gotten resistance for the first time in such a long time. And obviously he was in shape because, like I said, the fight went 11 rounds. But if you watch that fight, McClellan is boxing, but he's almost, like I said, he's almost out of his element. He's getting hit with really dumb shots. He's doing his own level of damage. I think he ends up hurting Ben again in like round 8 or something like that, if I remember correctly. But either way, I remember watching it and just thinking like he's just not his mental focus on the fight is not there. You know what I mean? It's like
that's not lazy. That's complacency. He got
complacency. Yeah, and that can happen as well. It's not just lazy. It's complacency where you physically are there, but mentally you sort of think about it. He was on his way to the 7th first round knockout in a row or 6th first round knockout in a row, whatever it was over Ben. And then all of a sudden, not only does he not get it, but this guy comes roaring back. So, it's so many variables. It's not just physical. It can also be mental. So, yeah, I wouldn't call it lazy. The mental side of it can be complacency. You're right, champ.
And that's what separates the good fighters from the great fighters from the all-time great fighters? Well, fortunately, have a couple of those asking questions and answering them. That's right, on Boxing Scene. Once again, leave your questions in the comments section. They answer it on the website. Also, we'll do it here on air, so let us know what you think, and we'll give you our opinions as always. Boxing Scene Today. Thanks for joining us. Find out why millions are watching.